Welcome everyone. This is live on a wonderful Sunday afternoon. It's a bit rainy where I am, so I thought the perfect time to do an indoor stream looking behind the curtain of Steemit. This is a platform that I know all of you know I talk a lot about. I generally post all my content on there. It's one of my my favorite platforms for posting content, getting out there and monetizing, and it's one of many that I use. So I thought that I would focus on Steemit this afternoon because there's a lot of uncertainty for new people who are starting out on Steemit. There's a lot of controversy recently, you know, with posts on Steemit, and there's a lot of things that, especially when I got started, I didn't quite understand how the mechanics of it all works. And it took me a while to figure out. And I thought, like, if someone had just kind of spelled it out to me, like what the difference between all these things are, then, you know, and how it all works behind the scenes, then I, you know, it would have made it a lot easier. So looking behind the curtain at Steemit, and I'm joined here today by Andrew Levine. He is, of course, the content director of Steemit, and you would have seen me, you know, last year. I think I posted pictures of him involved with the hard fork stuff that we were doing. But it's wonderful to chat with you right now, Andrew.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start from the top. So Steemit, just about anyone who's not involved in it, just a quick summary. What is this thing?
So Steemit.com is a web interface. That's really all that it is. It's a web application that is designed to be a blogging platform. The real magic behind Steemit.com is, of course, the Steem blockchain.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about that, because that's one of the confusing things that people have when they get into the space. And, you know, when we're talking about blockchains and the mutability of blockchains and, you know, the decentralized nature of blockchains, like, it's all very important to use words specifically so we know exactly what they mean. So there's a difference between the Steemit blockchain and, well, I should say Steem blockchain, and Steemit.com, which, as you said, is a platform. So talk me through that.
Yeah, we didn't do ourselves any favors by naming everything some kind of variant of Steem.
Steam-based Steem.
And now there's Steem Monsters, and there's the Steve app, which is similar to Steemit.com. It's by a third-party developer, but they use AI to filter the content.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool.
What's that called?
Steve, S-T-E-E, like Steam, S-T-E-E-V-E. .app or something.
All right.
Yeah, Steve. But it's basically all the same content as you'd see on Steemit.com, except they apply their own machine learning algorithms. And they also enable users to rate the content in different ways so that they can basically power their AI to present information to their users that is ideally better suited to their users.
So the idea is that Steem is the term that's referring to the actual blockchain and the actual Steem token, of which there are many, and we'll go into that as well. But anyone could basically build their own platform on top of this. Steemit.com obviously is the most popular and the original, and you've also got your streaming platforms, video platforms, all of these things run by, you know, certain individuals in the community. They build it on top of Steem and not necessarily affiliated with Steemit.com, which is always important to know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, back in the day, people might remember that there was this great ambition when the internet was first getting going, that we'd be able to create this universal layer that would store all of our information, and that you'd be able to build apps on top of, and, you know, nobody would own anything, but we'd all be able to communicate with one another through these services. And the internet didn't really shape up that way. And Steem is really the attempt to realize that vision of creating an open database for all of your social information that enables you to retain control over your information while still enabling application developers to tap into that information and use it to power their apps. So when you share content on Steemit.com, what's really happening is that you're using APIs to store your posts, your comments on this open and decentralized database. And that's the Steem blockchain. It's actually called Steemd, as in Steem database. And it's
I didn't actually know that. Steemd.
yeah, absolutely. And if you go to steemd.com, you can see just a visual representation of the database.
And
And
that right now.
yeah, go check it out. And what that database is, the name for the style of database that is used is blockchain, which you're very familiar with. So what we basically did, part of the confusion is that Steemit Inc., the company that launched Steemit.com, is also the company that architected and launched the Steem blockchain protocol, which
that
is
makes sense, obviously.
Right. But the Steem blockchain protocol is an open and decentralized blockchain protocol derived from Bitcoin. You know, you can trace the origins all the way back. And one of the reasons why I like talking to you is because Steem and Bitcoin actually kind of have a lot in common. And really what the architects behind Steem were thinking was, Bitcoin is great. We're all huge fans of Bitcoin. And this is not remotely about dethroning Bitcoin as kind of digital gold. But it's like, Bitcoin is great. The decentralization is great. But we want to, let's take this great new technology and how can we make a few changes to it to enable it to power freemium web applications? What do we have to do to get from A, which is Bitcoin, to B, free to use web applications? And so then Steemit.com was basically came out of the thought process of, okay, well, if we were going to build our own web interface that would use this technology, what would it be? What would we design? Because if we're building a product that's actually going to use this, then we know what to put into the blockchain protocol. And so the decisions that got made were, well, what if we could add the ability to store posts on Bitcoin and comments on Bitcoin? Okay, now we need, so we've got this great digital currency. We've got this ability to make this very efficient money. We can create it out of thin air, and we can come up with all kinds of exotic ways for having those tokens distributed. Well, what if we have a certain percentage of tokens just created every year out of thin air, and then we allow our users, based on how much stake they have, to distribute those newly created tokens? And now, not only can we store people's posts and comments on a blockchain, but we can actually incentivize their participation in it through what we call proof of brain, through printing of money and then crowdsourced distribution of that money. And
like, I know that everyone probably gets a little bit of like a chill when people talk about like, well, creating out of thin air and you know printing money, because I know that we're all sort of programmed to think of what government does to the money and in terms of devaluing. But what happens with Steem, it's quite interesting. So all of the Steem that's mined, a portion of that is earmarked. And that earmarked portion is put into this fund that, as you said, people vote on and they distribute that. So it's a little bit of a different model to other content sharing platforms, which I've always found very interesting, and I always think has led to its success. The reason why Steem has, I think, the most users out of any of these types of platforms out there is because some platforms where you go on, like, first of all, there's a huge time investment in learning a new platform. And then when you're asked to give a monetary investment as well, right off the bat, not knowing if this is something that I'm going to use in future, it can get a little scary for someone. So if you're talking about creating a content sharing platform where you have to put in a certain amount of money and then pay in order to put things on the blockchain and then pay out of your money to donate to people, there's same way you would for like a strip of, again, that's all coming out of your pool of money. And it's just a very different mindset to a platform where you're not actually having to put in any of your own money into a wallet or stake any of that. You're not actually having to switch into Steem in order to vote for people, and yet people are still benefiting from your vote each time. So I always found that very interesting.
Yeah, there are quite a few things packed into there that I think are astute observations. The first is that we have always been extremely committed to the idea of minimizing cognitive load and friction. The reason why I got involved in Steem, and if you go and you look at our white paper, it's right in there. In order to solve the problem of social media on a blockchain and incentivizing social media through this technology, you can't have thought. And as long as people are thinking, oh, how much is this costing me? How am I going to get money into here? You're not going to be able to compete with the likes of Facebook and Twitter because people don't have to think to use those. So that has always been top priority. We were never going to compromise and say, well, if we just get people to pay for this or that, that would make our jobs easier. We're not interested in making our jobs easier. We're interested in solving like really interesting and challenging problems. And we're extremely proud of the number of problems we've been able to solve and we continue to solve. It hasn't been an easy go of it, but, Steem is now by far the biggest decentralized social media platform. As far as I know, it's still the only social network on a blockchain that's entirely on a blockchain, processing the level of traffic and activity that such a social network would have. Not only one social network, but now you have, as you mentioned, DTube, video streaming. The video is obviously not on Steem, but the rest of the app is powered by Steem. And just, steampeak.com is a different user interface that's really great. Steve, like I mentioned before, where they're just taking Steve,
It's so funny. It's like I have a platform called George. Like it's very interesting. No, that was something that I had to wrap my head around when I first got involved, because a lot of people were telling me about the video platforms based on Steemit, and then you'd hear things saying like, oh, well, that's not really Steem and it's not part of that. That's just some guy who coded that up. It's like, it's very different. But then, it wasn't automatic that I just understood that was just a layer on top of the Steem blockchain, and that anyone could be building these. But obviously it makes sense. I mean, there are all kinds of different blockchains out there that people are building on all the time, and Steemit is no different to that. And one of the qualms that comes up, because I do want to go into the specifics of, like, because it gets confusing, honestly. You go into your wallet and there's like 15 different types of currency that all have the word Steem in the title, and it's like, what? But before we go into that, I wanted to, what was I going to say? You know what, maybe we'll go straight into that, because I just totally mentally no, that's what I was going to say. So Steem gets a lot of flack from the community, and we should address that right off the bat. And I think that, like, one of the first things people say is like, why do we need Steem when we've got Bitcoin? You can just immediately send a donation. That's what Bitcoin's for. You can send it instantaneously. Why do we need that? And my response to that is always like, well, that's like saying, why do we need Patreon when we've got PayPal? We already have a platform for sending money. Why do we need this other thing? Or why do we need PayPal when we've got wire transfers inside your bank account? These are all ways of transferring money, but there are different niches and there are different specialized use cases. And Steem has a very specific use case. And it's the use case where you want to share things that you've created, whether it's blog posts or art or music. I'm always trying to get my my artist friends involved with it, because I think it's the thing in blockchain that they could most easily identify with. This is them just creating their day-to-day art, the things that they do anyway, but they could actually monetize it. And And I think that it takes a little bit of a mind shift for people to realize that, yes, this is real money that they're earning there. Like when I first earned Steem dollars or whatever it is, and we'll get into that, you know, I was thinking, okay, great, I have this mystical magic internet money that I can't do anything with. And it wasn't until I very easily transferred into Bitcoin, I was like, oh, this is real money. Like I just earned money by doing the same thing I always do. I make videos, but usually I don't get paid for them. And this is a way for me to share it. And people who find the work that I do valuable, they put in effort and they want to curate posts because that helps them earn money as well. They're looking for good content. There are all these incentives in play, and we'll talk about those incentives in a second. So just in terms of like the specific use case of Steem, like, I mean, that's my favorite thing about Steem, that it is a niche. I'm just wondering if that's how you feel as well. Like I know that there's a lot going on with Steem and different people building different platforms, so it's nice to see the ecosystem build, but I just love that very specific use case that is just, you know, sharing donations and sharing value with the world and getting value in return.
Yeah, I think that everything you said is more or less right, and it's a good way to think about it. I mean, I of course would articulate it slightly differently. I think that, you know, I kind of touched on it before, but a lot of Steem fundamentally comes down to facilitating micropayments. You know, it doesn't seem necessarily obvious, and it's a bit kind of wonky, you know, to get into these details, but I'm sure your audience is fairly wonky. And really, the mission behind Steem, in a way, was, well, how do we solve the problem of micropayments? How can I send you 1 penny? By the way, people sending one another 0.00 tiny fractions of a penny is insanely commonplace on Steem. It probably happens tens of thousands of times every day, and nobody talks about it because it's so commonplace on Steem. And nobody talks about the fact that we've solved micropayments. And as far as I know, again, we're the only ones who have really solved micropayments in a meaningful way. And the way that you solve the problem of micropayments is through this inflationary model where, you know, part of the confusion is that people take a proof of work analysis at Steem, because when Steem was created, people weren't familiar with proof of stake or didn't think it was feasible. But Steem is a proof of stake blockchain. So there is no mining. There's no mining of currency. There is inflation in Bitcoin. There's inflation in every token that I know of, except probably some stupid ones that don't have any new tokens being created. It's just usually it's for mining. Ethereum is in the process of migrating to a mechanism where the money is created without mining. They're implementing proof of stake. And so what we did was we implemented our version of proof of stake, which has proven insanely resilient over the last 3 years. It works like acceptably, you know, there's no evidence that it doesn't work in any way. But so what you say is, you say, well, there's no more mining, so why don't we continue to create these tokens? What matters is not that you create tokens, it's who gets them. Are they adding value to the network or not? And then we leverage all the upvotes and downvotes that people are accustomed to giving through things like Reddit and Facebook. The Steem blockchain is a protocol that is designed to leverage that data and use it to distribute the token inflation. And this is part of the mechanism that enables micropayments. And once you have, and the other component is delegated proof of stake, reducing the number of nodes to 20 from infinity, because basically having so many nodes is part of what makes the network so expensive to run. And this ties into the distinction between Bitcoin and Steem and Ethereum.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So Steem has a very specific name for someone who runs one of these nodes. So walk us through how it all works.
Yeah, the name is a witness, and they're just a canonical block producer. They produce blocks. Their job is to produce blocks. I don't necessarily want to get too wrapped up in the details, but they're like a Bitcoin block producer. They're like a Bitcoin miner, except there's no proof of work in there, so their job's a lot easier.
And so they receive reward for doing that work on the chain?
Yeah, exactly. They receive Steem effectively, and we'll talk about the different tokens that are part of the ecosystem.
75 different types of Steem.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, when you're talking about Steem, it's content that's being created and it works on this blockchain. So is all of the content recorded on the blockchain? How does that all work?
So one point I just wanted to make is that the key distinction between something like Bitcoin and Steem really does fundamentally come down to the idea that you're choosing to trust a smaller number of people in exchange for efficiency. So it is true that Steem requires a higher level of trust than something like Bitcoin. That's why I say we're not saying that we're trying to unseat Bitcoin. You elect your block producers instead of mining the token yourself. But at the end of the day, you're trusting that block producer to reliably produce blocks, to reliably maintain the network. Now, there are other mechanisms built into the protocol that ensure that it is insanely difficult for a block producer to game the system or somehow, falsify the ledger. That's not technically possible. However, the fact remains that there is this smaller number of nodes, but what we get from that is a network that is much less expensive to run, many orders of magnitude. And with that efficiency, what that enables us to do is store text on our blockchain. And it's as simple as that. Then what we did is we give some structure to the text: username, post, comment. All of that stuff is literally blockchain level. You can go and you can begin producing blocks for our blockchain, just like you could fire up a peer-to-peer client. You could begin producing blocks on the Steem blockchain. You won't be an elected witness. For that, you have to earn votes from the community, but you can replicate the database, which is part of what makes it so difficult to game, is that there are hundreds of people replicating the database and verifying what the witnesses are doing. So it's not like we're really trusting the witnesses.
Right.
So if you were to do that and you were to go to look at the blockchain, you would literally see my username. You would see Andrarchy sent these tokens from this account to that account, or Andrarchy received tokens from the rewards pool.
So when people talk about, everyone's worried about censorship these days. Everyone's worried about, how do we have content that can't be taken down? How do we trust these platforms? And what people have to realize is that when we're talking about censorship, even in Steemit, like I know there was some controversy not too long ago, what's recorded in the blockchain is recorded in the blockchain. That can't be removed, correct? And there are different protocols or different second layer platforms like steemit.com that are operating on top of that, like DTube, like all of these other things. They're private platforms. They could do whatever they want there, but people can still actually access the blockchain. They could see all of the information there. It's whether or not different platforms or websites are operating on top of that, choose to show that. But Steem has been pretty good, as far as I can tell, with letting content kind of be there. Obviously they have to operate within the confines of the law, otherwise they would just be shut down. They're a website like any other website. They have a focal point like any other focal point. But the thing is that governments can't shut down the blockchain.
Yes. Technically, governments can do almost anything that they want to do, but your analysis is exactly right. Any web interface is going to live on servers and going to reside in a jurisdiction, and Steemit.com is the same. We are a United States company. The benefit of that is that you can know that we're regulated by the laws of the United States. We exist in the United States. We can't defraud you. You get certain benefits out of that. The downside of that is that, of course, we have to comply with all regulations and laws within the United States, right. and we will do that. And the reality is that anybody who expects anything else doesn't really understand the situation. The most you can ever hope for, that what you want is a future of many web interfaces, all of which have access to your information, and that your information is under your control and cannot be taken away and cannot be deleted without your say-so. That should be the goal. That, I believe, is the goal, and that is what we have achieved with Steem. Everything you post to your Steem account, which is what you're doing when you use steemit.com, is stored on the Steem blockchain, and nobody can get rid of that. Where it's shown, which is what steemit.com is a web interface.
And that's one of the places where it's shown, because there are other platforms that pull from the Steem blockchain and show different things.
Exactly. And that's the hard part, by the way. The hard part isn't coming up with grand plans for how your protocol is going to disrupt the world. The tough part is actually launching something that developers like and use and build interfaces for. And we're now at a place,
and users like as well, because honestly, there are some great platforms out there. There are some platforms which, heaven forbid, maybe better than Steem, that are doing some interesting things.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, unless you have network effect, unless you actually have people contributing to these pages, I mean, they're gonna die pretty quick, and most already have. You see a lot of that. Something comes in, they think they have a superior product, they may well have one, but if no one's going to be using it, if there's not that social engagement, and that's something that Steemit, being one of the first movers in the space to really get this right and get a platform that people wanted to use and get a platform that was exciting. Like, the communities that I built on Steemit are pretty awesome. So building that, I think, is the hardest part of any platform, and that's something that Steemit has gotten right.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're in a place where if you don't like steemit.com, you can use Partico. I highly recommend it. It's a mobile first app that uses the Steem blockchain. So if you don't like the steemit.com interface, if you find yourself on your phone more, you can use Partico, or you can use eSteem. They're both mobile interfaces. They both have different features and functionalities. They're arguably much better than steemit.com on your mobile device. And it's all the exact same information. That's the hard part, is getting to a place where you've got options, where your data is yours and you've got options as far as what you can use. Yeah, steemit.com isn't the most beautiful site. That's because 90% of our work is building the blockchain that powers not only that site, but Partico and eSteem and all this other stuff. The vast majority of our work is actually not just on the blockchain, but on the middleware, on also the firmware between the blockchain, because our nodes got huge because we have just bundles more traffic than everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Steve, it's amazing. When I was actually looking at the numbers, comparing different websites where people upload their content and vote and do all of that stuff, it's kind of incredible how much larger Steem is than anything else out there.
Absolutely. And that's the killer advantage that we have. Anytime people come out and they say, I'm going to build a better steemit.com, my first reaction is, I'm glad you're not looking at what really matters, which is the Steem blockchain. If you don't get that, you have no chance of competing with us at all, because it's not about steemit.com. It's about Steem. Second, good luck not only building a better site and building a better blockchain and scaling it, but catching up to us.
Well, I mean, I think that
we're a million people ahead.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, I'm always for market competition, and honestly, like, whatever the best platform is out there, I'm going to use it. And even now, I mean, I upload every time I do a video. There's like a dozen websites that I upload everything to, and I love them all, and they're different communities. But it's remarkable how much traction Steemit has, how much engagement there. It's fun. Like, it's a fun place to hang out and meet people. I do want to give a shout out. So I got a super chat from Full-Time Geek who says, thank you for talking about my favorite blockchain. So I really, really appreciate that. But you did send me dirty fiat when you could have used Bitbacker, and you could have sent some crypto instead. If anyone wants to send a chat or anything, then feel free to use the power chat on Bitbacker, and they don't take 30% like Google does. So there's food for thought. But I really, really appreciate that, Full-Time Geek. And I also appreciate all of the work you do with Steem as well, like constantly out there promoting. It's just, I see you around everywhere. So I really appreciate that. So
Naomi,
yeah,
can I tweet out? Do you want me to tweet this out?
the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Is it at your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I give everyone the Power Chat link because that streams the video through Bitbacker, and then they can be sending questions and doing whatever. So I'll send you that in the chat right here.
Perfect.
So that's the link, and they can watch the video on there, and they can also see the Google chat. They can see the super chats coming in, but they can also see the power chats on Bitbacker that way. Yeah, I agree. They need a Steem Tippy extension, but Bitbacker currently, they accept a bunch of different cryptocurrencies, currently have 4, and they're constantly adding new cryptocurrencies. It's a very, very small team, so it takes a long time, but I do believe that Steem is on their radar to be another tipping mechanism on Bitbacker. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. But let's talk a little bit about the different currencies, because if Bitbacker were to add Steem on there, which one would they add? Because there are 53 million different types of I know Steem dollars and Steem coins and all these things. So I'm just going to pull up my Steem right now. We're going to start from the top. So first of all, when I look at a post on Steem, it has a number there. Now, what number does that refer to?
That is the US dollar, the aggregate US dollar value of the rewards you received.
Rewards in which currency?
It depends on what you set it as. So
got it. So let's first of all go through and we'll explain what the different ones are, and then we'll talk about the weighting mechanism that you have when you post, because I think that this is very important information for people. So the first one that's listed, if you go to your wallet on Steem, the first one that's listed, it says Steem, tradable tokens that may be transferred anywhere at any time. Steem can be converted to Steem power in a process called powering up. So Steem itself, is that the underlying token of the Steem blockchain?
Yes, the Steem token is the Bitcoin of the Steem. Its crypto economic mechanics are hard-coded into the blockchain, and it is the most liquid token on the platform. It's what they're all the base pairs on the exchange are. You can go from Steem to Bitcoin. You cannot go from Steem power to any other currency. That is for complicated reasons that we might get into later. But honestly, the important takeaway here is that Steem is the token. Steem is the currency of the Steem blockchain. And I wanted to make a point before about what our vision for the Steem blockchain is. And it is the currency of the social internet. We want the Steem token to be the currency of the social internet. I know that, that Bitcoin can't be that. Bitcoin is great. I believe that Bitcoin is basically the foundation of the crypto economy. It is the gold-backed foundation of the crypto economy. And what we need to do is iterate on its original design and meet different use cases. And then that is Bitcoin solving all the problems. Steem is Bitcoin in a way, right? Because it's a descendant.
I wouldn't say that. People are going to excerpt that and turn that into a GIF, be like, Steem is Bitcoin, and then turn you into like some sort of a super villain on the internet.
Please do. Please do. No such thing as bad press, baby. But it's derived from Bitcoin. There's a reason why it's open source. And by the way, Steem is totally open source too. So nothing is stopping anyone from cloning our block. Actually, a number have. They haven't had nearly as much success as us because we're the best at it. But you're free to try. It's open source. We believe in open source. We believe in blockchain.
Yeah, for sure. So let's keep moving on. So you've got Steem. So that's like the underlying currency. Then you've got Steem power, which is not Steem. It's different. And you could convert between the two. What is Steem power?
So Steem power is, let's take a step back to what it means to have a stake-based protocol. Mm-hmm. What it means to have a stake-based protocol is that possession of the token gives you influence over the protocol. One, it enables you to vote on block producers. It enables you to vote on that trusted party whose job is to produce blocks. And in exchange for reliably producing blocks, they get a salary of newly created Steem tokens. Very important role, right? The other thing you can do by holding the token is you can reward on Steem, you can upvote and downvote content creators, other users. You can transfer, you can affect the distribution from the rewards pool. Mm-hmm. Again, a very important responsibility. If anybody in the world can impact where our tokens can go, and there's no price mechanism built in, think about how dangerous that would be. Now imagine a situation where somebody buys 1 million Steem tokens, immediately starts voting on witnesses, voting on all these things, messing stuff up, and then they just cash out right away. That would be another attack vector. Blockchain is all about game theory, right? Game theory, a big component of game theory is protecting against attack vectors. Mm-hmm. Steem power is the solution to that problem. It's basically a time-locked vault for your tokens. And in order to vote for witnesses, in order to vote for content and affect that distribution of newly created tokens, what you have to do is you have to take your Steem tokens and you have to lock them in a vault for essentially 13 weeks. And once you do that, now you can influence the reward pool. Now you can upvote and downvote content. And
so I noticed that when I put when I earn Steem, I can weight how much I want to go into power, and I can weight how much I want to go into Steem. Is that how it works?
If I recall correctly, you can affect how much goes into Steem power, and you can affect how much goes into Steem dollars. Yes, and Steem. Yes.
And we haven't gotten to dollars yet.
Depends.
So it just does Steem power. So Steem power, essentially, the more Steem power you have, that affects, like when you upvote something, that affects how much money they make. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Because like I saw that as I started moving things into Steem power, when I vote for people, I now have the ability to actually send them money with my vote. It's not just like an arbitrary, here, I like your post, have an upvote. Now I was sending them, a few cents, which is actually a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways that I like to explain what Steem is that it's a game. It's a social media game that is stake to play instead of pay to play. So in order to play, in order to upvote people and give them these points, which are cryptocurrency tokens, you have to stake your tokens. You have to put them in a vault for 13 weeks. And once you do that, you can give them an increasing percentage of the newly created tokens because you've staked. The more you stake, the more you can play, the more you can reward other players. The important thing for people to know about that is that you can always cash out. That's what a power down is. A power down is when you initiate the cash out process for your Steem power. And now say you have 13,000 Steem power. What that means is that every week, 1,000 of your Steem power is going to get converted into 1,000 Steem. And so every week you're going to get 1,000 Steem, 1,000 Steem, 1,000 Steem, because you had 13,000 Steem, and it's a 13-week cash out process. So while that's not, while everybody would like to have their money faster, that's a very important element for protecting the crypto economic security of the ecosystem, because if people can come in, manipulate the system, and cash out right away, it's not going to be a very good game. You have to invest in the game. You have to stake your tokens in order to play the game. And that's what Steem power is. That's really the function that Steem power plays.
Right. So
but you can always cash out.
Right.
Nobody has ever failed to cash out.
That's a good thing to know. So under Steem power, it says here, influence tokens, which give you more control over post payouts and allow you to earn on curation rewards. So now's a good time to just mention what a curation reward is.
Yeah, so as I said before, the whole thing about Steem is that it is the most, well, I didn't say this before, but it's the most advanced decentralized system for incentivizing social media gameplay. And curation is a critical component of social media.
Because it incentivizes people to be finding good posts. And I mean, like there's always this trap that you think would be automatic on something like Steem, where you can just upvote really shitty things and, you know, they upvote your shitty things. You can have this kind of incestuous like feedback loop where like it just ends up with a site filled with trash. And so there are these curation rewards that reward people for being one of the first people to like re-Steem, which means like retweet, or upvote posts, which could have led other people to find that post. So finding good content is a good thing in Steem, and you're awarded for doing that.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that Steem is designed to enable people to just play, to just join and play. It's free to join, so it doesn't cost you anything, but it's also free to upvote, downvote, and look around. And everybody who upvotes is curating. And if you upvote, you will likely receive some form of curation reward at some point, because if you find good content that deserves an upvote and you give that upvote and the content goes on to receive lots of other upvotes and rewards from people, the curation reward is effectively a decentralized kickback mechanism for you. And, you know, it quite simply, it incentivizes the upvoting of high quality content. That's the design for it. All you have to do is find good content and upvote it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make it a job. You don't have to make it complicated. Like I said, we're obsessed with minimizing cognitive load. But if you go and you look at your wallet, after a month or 2 months of participating, what you're going to see are some transactions in there that are like curation reward, 0.1 Steem. And there are actually people who make curating their job. And there are curation guilds now, which are effectively decentralized organizations that specialize in curation. And they do that for the curation rewards. But every new user gets those rewards when they upvote high quality content.
Right. So then it says here, as part of Steem Power, part of Sky Corridors, because that is my Steemit handle, in case you were wondering, part of Sky Corridors, Steem Power is currently delegated. Delegation is donated for influence or to help new users perform actions on Steemit. Your delegation amount can fluctuate. Walk me through, like, what does that mean?
So delegation is the ability to lend somebody else your influence. So say I have 5 million Steem. I don't. I wish I did. I don't.
A billion Steem.
A billion Steem. You know, you can't, when you have that much Steem, if you vote 100%, you're going to be giving a huge reward to that person. So you wind up having scenarios where people basically have more Steem than they can use. You know, somebody with 1 billion Steem can't go around all day upvoting, you know, finding great content and upvoting it.
Although some people I know do make an actual living just from curation. And that's interesting. They don't put out much content themselves, but their job, like they literally just hunt through social media and find cool stuff. Like that was fascinating to me, finding that out, that people could actually earn real money doing that. Anyway, keep going.
No, the Steem economy is just this fascinating bottomless well of different guilds and companies and jobs, and it's really a miraculous and fascinating thing to see.
So how does one delegate their stake? How do they, you know, how does that all work?
There's, I think the easiest way is there's a Chrome plugin called Steem Plus. And Steem Plus is pretty cool. I mean, we don't make it. We can't vouch for its security or whatever. So do your own due diligence on that. I mean, from everything I know, it's safe to use. I use it. And what Steem Plus does, it's really cool, is it basically adds features to steemit.com. And so when I go to my steemit.com wallet, I have a delegate button. I can just click a button and a modal pops up, and I can put in any account name, and I can just type in the amount of Steem power I want to delegate to a person. And like, say I like you, I want you to be able to reward content with more power. I could delegate to you 10,000 Steem power in 20 seconds just by going to my wallet, hitting that delegate button, inputting your account name, and then selecting the amount I want to delegate. What a lot of people do is they'll delegate a percentage of their Steem power to whatever their favorite curation guild is, because that guild is a company that goes around, they find people who love curating, who do it every day, like the people you talked about, and they form an organization whose job is to do that. And the advantage that they get out of it is so they aggregate delegations, right? Lots of people delegate their Steem power to these guilds. Then they use that Steem power to upvote content that they feel meets their standards. And I believe that part of how they function is that they actually take a percentage of the curation rewards that they get from upvoting high quality content. And all of this sophistication is possible because of while the Steem blockchain sounds really complicated, it's actually very simple when you compare it to a general purpose blockchain like Ethereum. And it's these simple primitives like the curation reward, like Steem power. While they sound complicated, they're actually simple primitives that other organizations and other interfaces can build on top of. And the fact that they do build on top of them, the fact that these organizations do exist and persist and continue to grow and function, is proof that we've made at least some of the decisions correctly.
Right. Let's keep going down. So then we've got Steem dollars, which apparently is different from Steem and different from Steem power. So what is Steem dollars?
Yeah, for all of these, I think it's best to start from understanding the purpose of these tokens and not getting wrapped up in the technical details. Like, why are they there? Like Steem power, it's there for influence. It's the influence unit.
The Steem power makes sense, but then Steem dollar.
Right. So the Steem dollar, its purpose was really to give people a financial reward that they were familiar with. You have to remember that we launched 3 years ago. This was before almost anybody had heard of blockchain and crypto. I know your audience was like all in Bitcoin, but as a percentage of population, nobody had heard about cryptocurrency. So what we wanted to do with the Steem dollar is we wanted to give people a reward that they could feel was real, that they could cash out into something else and turn it into something that they use to pay their bills. And that was the goal of the Steem dollar. And so what we did was we created another token. And what we basically do, the economics of it are, we take a small percentage of the total Steem inflation. So like I said before, every year new Steem is printed. Most of a percentage of that goes to the block producers. Most of it goes to content creators, curators, stuff like that. But 10% of the new inflation is used to back a dollar pegged asset. And that's the Steem dollar. And what the Steem dollar is on a more technical level is an IOU for however many Steem tokens it will take to create a US dollar's worth of value. So
is the idea that the same way that when central governments, like for example, you had the Bank of England, they had a certain amount of money that they were using to support what they pegged as the British pound, and they're meant to basically buy and sell in the open market in order to keep it at that steady rate. And so this is like an option for people who wanted to keep their money within the Steem ecosystem, but were not sure whether their Steem was going to be devalued or inflated or whatever. So they could convert that into Steem dollars as a way to hedge against that change. Is that the idea?
Partly, and also you can just accept a percentage of your rewards, I believe up to 50%. If you go to steemit.com and you go to your settings, you see a 50% Steem dollar, Steem power split. So you can just earn Steem dollars. And so if you have that setting where 50% is Steem power and 50% is Steem dollars, I think that's a useful example, because basically The half that's steam power, you can't cash out, you can't liquidate it for 13 weeks. You can use it to vote on witnesses, you can use it to vote on other people's content, but it's illiquid. Steem dollars, if you have the 50% steem dollars option, that steem is liquid and it's stable. It's stable.
Wait, the steam power is illiquid, but steam is liquid and steam dollars are both liquid. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
But steam dollars, the more or less is going to sit around the US dollar, and steam is going to fluctuate.
Yeah, it's designed to return to a dollar all the time. It's very difficult maintaining a pegged asset, especially when the blockchain is doing lots of other things at the same time. So we introduced a modification in Hard Fork 20 that seems to have limited the variance in the steam dollar to between 20%, within 20% of a dollar. The important part is that it's always designed to go back to a dollar, and that it's proven to be very good at, all while remaining decentralized. So the most important aspects of the steam dollar is that it's backed by just a small percentage of the steam token inflation. It's not a big part of the ecosystem. And it's designed to always return to a dollar. So you can limit your downside if you'd like. You can cash out, but yeah, it's designed to be liquid and stable.
Got it. So it's just a way, like if people want to hold that in their account in steam dollars rather than steam, that might be a way for them to hedge price movements in a way.
Yeah, honestly, I think the original motivation behind it was the familiarity. We wanted to give people just something that they were familiar with, and everybody knows the US dollar. Now,
that was one of the first stable coins, before we had Gemini releasing theirs and all these other ones. We had the Steem dollar, but let's use the word stable coin like loosely there, because the Steem dollar, as you said, like 20% fluctuation on either side is pretty dramatic. But if it's, if it always tends to come back to the dollar, and that's what it's designed to do, then we can call it a stable-ish coin.
Stable-ish coin. Yeah, I mean, the way I like to think about, I actually do think there's a lot of value in the Steem dollar. And I think it comes down to two components for maybe the wonkier of your audience. One is that cryptocurrencies for the foreseeable future are going to be an extremely volatile asset class. Most of us in this space, we don't mind that about it. That's kind of what we like about it. That's kind of the fun about it. And any project is going to be tied to that price. We've experienced various benefits and downsides to being so closely tied to this volatile asset. And what I like as an individual, not as a representative of Steemit, about the Steem dollar is that it gives this stability refuge within the crypto sphere. Given that Steem is so volatile, I think it's nice to have kind of a hedge against that volatility. I also believe that it helps with velocity of money. Right. When you earn Steem, because it's not volatile, because it's not likely to go up very much in price, you're not hodling. Right, you don't really have an incentive to hodl. Yep. It's you have more of an incentive to spend. And I think that as the ecosystem grows and as products and services come online, as more and more are literally every week now, that Steem dollar is going to wind up playing a more critical role. Because look, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. I don't want to spend my Steem either. And that's actually a very dangerous thing for crypto economies, because when everybody holds, you don't have velocity of money, you don't have economic growth. And I think that in Steem, we may see going forward that the Steem dollar plays an important role as far as facilitating economic transactions, because it isn't doing anything for you while it sits there other than protecting you from the downside. To a certain degree.
Got it. So we got Steem, we got Steem Power, we got Steem dollars. Now you have this section called savings. Now, what's that for, and what's the incentive for people to use that as opposed to Steem dollars or Steem Power or Steem? What does that do?
Steem savings is probably, You should really just power it up into Steem Power. What Steem
Like, do you earn
savings?
interest by putting it in the savings account? Like, how's that function?
I believe you, honestly, it's not a big component of the ecosystem. I don't think a lot of people even use that. What it does is it's kind of a version of Steem Power for your Steem dollars. The issue, the primary security issue, or one of the primary security issues around crypto, is that if somebody gets access to your keys, there's nothing you can do to stop them from taking your money.
So is this kind of like a cold storage type thing?
It's more of a time locked storage thing.
Got
so
it.
what we so and it functions similarly to Steem Power, except what it does is it says that you can't liquidate this for 3 days. And so what that enables people to do, theoretically, again, most people don't do this. What you should do with your, if you want to protect your Steem, you should just power it up into Steem Power. But if you're like, I want to protect my Steem dollars, what it does is it moves it into a 3-day vesting schedule, so that, you know, if somebody initiates a move from your savings to your liquid account, it's been so long since I even thought about the savings account. But basically what that enables is you could theoretically see, oh, why is that money moving out of my savings account? Now you can recover your account. Steem is one of the few blockchains to have account recovery. It was the first, that may still be one of the 1 or 2 that has account recovery. And that's actually a huge security component of the Steem blockchain. So once somebody starts moving money out of your savings, if it's not you, if it's a malicious actor, you can initiate an account recovery and take back control of your account, so that when that money makes it to your wallet, when it becomes liquid, you've got control over your account again, and nobody can cash that out. I believe there's an interest component, but it's probably not that significant.
Got it. And so the whole point of, like, when you say people should just steam it, put it into Steem Power, is there, did you mention a time lock period that goes into Steem Power, so that then you can't just like convert it back immediately? How long is that? It's
a 13-week vesting schedule. Yeah, so that means that every week you get 1/13 of the amount you are powering down.
Got it. So that is sort of like earning you interest if it's in Steem Power.
That's a separate issue, but yes, you are earning a form of interest on your Steem Power specifically. I believe that the savings also had an interest component, but it's set to 0. I believe the witnesses determine that parameter, and it's set to 0.
And the witnesses are like, we're going to hold interest rates as low as the Fed is. I'm sure that the Fed knows what they're doing. And then the final thing is estimated account value. So this is an average of the Steem in US dollars. And is that an average of all of the different Steem components in your account?
Yes, it is.
And is that taking, like, is that querying some sort of open market that that tracks the price of Steem in order to calculate that?
We have an online exchange. We have an on-chain exchange for Steem, and it might be, no, but that wouldn't be dollars. It is, yes, the witnesses supply a price feed for. I don't know where they pull their price feeds from. That is probably up to the witnesses to decide. And yeah, I actually just don't know the answer to that. But from what I understand, there's no serious issues. There is a debate within the community about the, you know, what price feeds are best and how to present the information in the most reliable manner. It's about right. There's some nuance there. There's always these debates going on. I always like to say that that's how you know it's a healthy and real community, is that there's always debates about what needs to be improved and what needs to be changed, and eventually they get changed. And that's one of those things that's a topic of conversation. But, you know, honestly, I was a content creator for 6 months. I never really worried about it. I worried about creating great content. And I always found that when I wanted to move my Steem into some other form, into Steem Power, or back into Steem, or into Steem dollars, or into Bitcoin, I never found that the numbers that were being projected were especially far off. Sometimes it was more. Sometimes we got more. You got more dollars than you expected.
Right. So that's everything that's in the balances section there, and you can transfer from one form to the other. There are time locks, as you mentioned, between certain ones. So just make sure you're aware of those before moving things in case you're wanting to, pull your money out or change it for whatever reason. Just be aware of what those are. And then down the bottom, you've got history. So people can send Steem back and forth. They can also attach messages. I can get kind of spammy. Like I get a lot of kind of like, here's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what was once a fraction of a penny, and my giant long message about my campaign attached to it, which is always kind of funny. But then occasionally I will get, like, someone might send me a donation or something in Steem, and that's outside of them just voting up content. So that's another component of Steem, that people can actually send messages and send money. Like, in fact, the only way to send messages to people is actually to send a donation, which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And that highlights one of those things we talked about before, which is micropayments, right? Like, all of those messages came with a little bit of money, and it's so commonplace on Steem that you're actually like annoyed by it. Like, screw you for this point.
I'm not even annoyed. Like, I don't even look at it. It's just the same message over and over. It says campaign, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Buy Steem is much stronger now. Don't stop, exclamation mark. Hello users, my account with most followers. I can promote your post. Like, it just, I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect if people have the ability to do this. But honestly, like, it's down the bottom. I don't even pay attention to it. I just look at it occasionally, just to go through. And you know what? If they're sending me money, even though it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, it's much better than spam I get in my mailbox every single day, where the grocery store is sending me stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to be buying this. Why are you clogging up my mailbox and making me pay for garbage pickup?
Well, imagine this. Imagine an interface enabled you to specify a Steem amount that would be required for you to view the messages. And imagine that interface told everybody who's sending you Steem, who's about to do that to you, hey, I hope you know that for 0.01 Steem, she's not going to look at this. But if you send her 1 Steem, she'll look at it. It'll appear in her interface. Now, that's something that could be designed today. That somebody could actually design an email client that integrates that feature. Do we have any
developers in the chat that want to do that? Because I would totally use that product.
It's it's $100 billion product if somebody just builds it and builds it right and builds a great team around it. I wrote an article about it 6 months ago or so. If they want the details, there's just a free idea. There's one of the issues in Steem is that there's just so much you can do with it right now that there's like too many options, and we don't. There's just so much you can do with it. It's almost hard to see what you should do with it. And there's so much you could do with it now that people are more interested in getting something up and running fast in people's hands. One I love to recommend is Drug Wars. Have you heard of this?
No. Well, I've heard of the war on drugs, but not.
No. Oh, this is the opposite of that. There was a game back when I was in high school called Drug Wars, and it was on your TI-82. And it was a text-only game where you could buy and sell drugs and arms and weapons. So obviously, this was hugely popular with teenage boys.
Pre-Silk Road, before you could do the real thing.
Yeah. Well, if you go to drugwars.io, what you'll see is an updated version of this game with a great user interface and great graphics, and you can join with your Steem account, and you can. It's really cool. You can become a drug dealer. You can start building a factory that creates drugs. You can acquire. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but on Steem. And they got this app together in a month. They built, and now last time I checked, it was this top 2 on the state of dApps after us of all blockchain traffic. It is now one of the top blockchain applications in the world. They spent a month or so building it, and they launched it like 2 weeks ago. They've already made tens of thousands of dollars in sales through it, and US dollars in sales. They've earned Steem through it, and they hacked it together in a month. And so right now and all credit to them. They built a really, really great game. I'd love to see more developers build apps and games like that. But it highlights that you can do so much so fast that that's really what people are doing now. They're trying to move fast and break things in a good way. You know, we designed the blockchain to not break so that you can build a web application that can break. And you can fix that. It can never affect the blockchain. It can never affect people's funds.
So someone just mentioned a website, Steem Ninja. I'm guessing this is another thing built on top of the Steem blockchain. What is this?
Steem Ninja is a great new app for getting a new account. It's really an account. It's an account app. So it's not especially exciting, but if you want to buy a new account, if you want to pay for it, if you want a free account, you can always go to signup.steemit.com. We give away free accounts. We vet you. You have to give an email and a phone number. If you don't want to do that, you can go to an app like Steem Ninja that'll sell you the account. Steem Ninja also has a really cool feature, which is that it enables you to refer people. And so you actually get a percentage of new accounts that you help create.
Interesting.
So that's, and that is an app. It is another app. It's not an especially fun app, but it's a very useful app.
Interesting. All right, I'm gonna have to look into that, and because I'm always keeping my ear out for interesting Steem things. I get a lot of flack from people for not putting my videos on DTube. To be honest, I just had a lot of issues. I'm just gonna say it. Like I'll call out platforms if they don't really work for me or if they're cumbersome or whatever. I see a lot of people love DTube, and that's great for them. I spent hours and hours fiddling and trying to get my videos on there. In the end, like after probably months of me, every single time I did a video, just trying to upload and just getting an error message after waiting 2 hours for an upload. Like, to see that error message, I mean, that's something that's only going to happen a few times before I give up. So I've got to be honest with you, I have not tried it for like a year. So I should probably give it another go. I'm sure that things have been refined and maybe there are other platforms I should try. And I'm all ears to suggestions if people have suggestions of platforms to try for video. I always want to, support people in the ecosystem and support different platforms and try things out so I can let people know what's good out there. But yeah, I don't currently put my videos on Steemit outside of just steemit.com, where I post a link to my other, where I upload it natively.
Yeah, honestly, I think that embedding a YouTube video into your Steemit post is a great way to use steemit.com.
And is that primarily just for money? Because it's DTube, I know often removes videos as well because there's just not a lot of room in the blockchain. And so are they, I mean, how does that work? Are they actually putting it in the blockchain? Are they just not keeping it on the website? What's going on there?
So for the especially technical among your audience, it might be good to know that the Steem blockchain is only capable of storing text, and for very good reason.
Because otherwise it would be huge.
Yeah, because it's so stupid to put video on a blockchain. They do not put video on our blockchain or any blockchain. They do store it on IPFS.
Okay.
And credit to the D2 people, if you've had unpleasant experiences with them, it's probably due to their use of IPFS, which they do because they want to be maximally decentralized. Right. So it is not an ideal user experience. I think that they know that, but they're big believers in decentralization, and so they're using IPFS to store people's video, and it is very expensive.
They do, yeah. So then they do clean that out, especially videos that aren't being watched, etc. But my understanding is that, like, regardless of that, like, perhaps it's not a good platform for longevity. If you want to back up your videos and put them somewhere else, that's probably not the option that you're looking for. But if you wanted to be monetizing your videos, putting them on there, I mean, the money doesn't disappear if your videos does. That all goes straight into your wallet. So this could be a great way for exposure if you wanted to try out these platforms. Your video might not stay there forever, but it's a great way to get people to see your content and to be earning off it.
Yeah, I think an important thing for people who are watching this to understand is that if your goal with experimenting with the Steem blockchain is to come in and exploit the system, it's very much designed not to reward you for that. The most common complaint we get is that people join, they post one thing, maybe they worked really hard on it, maybe they didn't, and they didn't get any rewards. That's the system working.
Well, that's actually, I mean, you hear a lot of people worrying about the stake model as well. Like, oh, I don't like these few people that have all this power. And, you know, people who also worry about these whales who have a lot of money and steam power, who are able to upvote something, give it a lot of money, and perhaps it's not the content that they would have liked to see upvoted. And obviously, I mean, I do see a lot of that. I see a lot of trashy stuff get upvoted. I'm like, oh, that's dumb. But at the same time, I mean, I see the same thing going on in all kinds of different news outlets. I was bemoaning the fact yesterday, I mean on Friday in my live stream, that half the articles I was looking at for my weekly news recap were like, oh, XRP is eyeing $50 a token, and or like Ethereum could hit all-time high soon. Like, all of these articles are just clickbait nonsense, but people seem to like it. People watch this. People give this eyeballs. You know, so there's this sort of mechanism happening in any ecosystem you go to, where things that aren't necessarily deserving get attention or awards.
Well, I would say that there's actually a very meaningful distinction between what's going on there and what's going on here. I think the important thing to bear in mind is that when you come onto Steem, in order to earn rewards on Steem, you have to do something that signals to stakeholders that you're deserving of their rewards. And the people who are being rewarded on Steem, right? Like, you talk about the whale problem, right? It's all about framing. Is it a problem or is it a solution?
I completely agree, and I actually give a lot of talks, being someone who's involved in this space, especially in the content creator side. Like, for my artist friends, I have 2 performance degrees. I have people who aren't involved in crypto at all, who you know, I know would benefit so much from all of the stuff that I'm learning. So I try to give as many talks to new audiences as possible. That's one of the things I talk about. I say exactly that. You know, if you put your content out there, the same with like a blog post, you're going to create a post and put it out there and expect 100 million people to just see a blog post. Like, that's not the way things work. That's not how the internet operates. If you want to build a community, if you want to support other people in the ecosystem, if you want to show that you care about the stuff they're putting out, maybe you could form friendships and communities, and you could have reciprocation there. That's the way any sort of community is formed, and people shouldn't expect Steem to be any different. If you're just going on there thinking you can put out your content, people come flocking and give you a ton of money, it's not really how it works, and you need to really be giving back and being a part. You know, it's a give or take relationship that show that you care about the stuff that they're doing as well.
Yeah, and that you believe in what we're doing. I mean, the whale problem is the same as saying I'm upset that I have to convince people with money to give me some of their money. You know, that's all that is saying. Now, there are some things that we have in the works from a technical standpoint that will make quality content discovery better on steemit.com as well as other Steem interfaces. So we released a piece of software called HiveMind. Short version of HiveMind is that it enables things like sub-communities on steemit.com and any other website that wants to use it. So we're going to release a communities feature on HiveMind that's going to enable sub-communities on any Steem interface. So when you go to steemit.com, you won't just be going to the one huge community that it is now, but you could go to your favorite community. You could go to your yoga community or your art community. And there are a few other enhancements that we could put in there to make it so that people with stake can find high quality content easier and rewarded. But at the end of the day, Steem is always going to have that mechanism where in order to earn Steem, you have to receive upvotes from large Steem stakeholders. If you don't like it, there's one very easy way to change it. Buy more Steem, power it up into Steem power.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the wonderful thing about voluntary platforms. Like, you know, you can go and try any other platform that you want. You can build your own platform on top of Steem as well.
Absolutely.
Things that work in different ways. Yeah, I mean, the more stuff that's going on in the ecosystem, the better. So I think that there's definitely options out there for people who want to actually see change and want to make a difference rather than just complain about issues that they see. You know, honestly, I do see a lot of issues with Steem, and I'm very honest with that in my talks as well. There are different things that I would change if I had an ounce of coding ability, which I don't. So I'm just grateful that there's a platform out there that provides a tremendous amount of value for me that I use and have a great time with. You know, there are lots of platforms out there that I love and that I can see all of the downsides and all of the flaws and all of the kinks in the work. And I'm just so grateful that there are people out there still building this stuff that I'm still using, because, you know, I think that this stuff is great and we need to see more of it, and we need to be incentivizing people to be building awesome things, not discouraging and you know, throwing mud at what they're doing, when honestly they're just trying to provide cool things for you to play with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to remember that unlike pretty much anything else out there, Steem and Steemit.com. Steemit.com is also entirely open source. So if you don't like something, you can actually code up the change yourself, and you could submit the PR, or you could
the code you seek. So code the change you seek, whatever the.
And we love hearing people talk about the changes that, well, we want to make the product better. We want to make the protocol better. We want to make the site better. Like, obviously, we love hearing people. When people are criticizing, when people are angry about things not getting better, faster, it means they care. And we know that. And so we are not bothered. What we want least is for people to stop talking about what they don't like about it. When people aren't talking about what they don't like, that means they don't care. That means they don't like it. And as long as people are complaining, it means that they like it. They want it to get better. And that's because, like, one of the other things I like to say to people who, you know, who are toxic, is that they can always go use that other social network on a blockchain if they like.
Right, exactly. So we are running out of time here, but I do want to give a huge thank you first of all to Full-Time Geek, who sent me, while we were talking, you know, that history with all of the spam that I said also enables you to send comments to people. So I actually got a donation from Full-Time Geek on Steemit. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And they said, thanks for sharing your handle in the live chat. And I got a donation from Menno as well, saying online interview tip as promised. I really, really appreciate that. It just it really does encourage me a lot with the stuff that I'm doing, because this, I mean, the social media, all of this stuff is how I monetize everything that I do. Like, this is what I do full time. So I really appreciate, like, all the people who are in the chat just engaging and who are interested in this stuff. You guys are just so awesome. And I do want to mention, so Menno, I believe, is one of the judges for the Steemit open mic. I think that he mentioned earlier. And that's something I want to talk about, because we talk about how there's a lot in Steem that, you know, doesn't work, and the people who hate it, and the entitlement mentality of those who come on and do something wonderful and are just wondering why the people aren't flocking to them. And that's all good and well, but let's talk about the stuff that does work on there and the awesome things that have been created. Like, one of the things that I will say right off the bat is Hard Fork series, which is something that is still ongoing, guys. We haven't forgotten about you, and I'm constantly promising updates, but there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about at the moment. But I met some of my favorite people from Steemit, from the communities there. That's how I got involved with Hard Fork, because I literally just scouring through comment found people who were like, hey, we're legit film producers who've had things at Cannes and had, you know, I was a lead actor in True Detective and Ozark and all that. And then I'm like, whoa, these are real people. Like, your Ben Lee's goddamn on Steemit. Like, I couldn't believe that. Anyone who's American doesn't understand this, but Ben Lee is like an Australian hero. He is a hero. He, like, you know, like Cigarettes Will Kill You. Oh, hands down, one of my favorite songs from 1998. Like, this guy is just a beautiful singer-songwriter. And then for me to discover him on Steem and be like, Ben, you're on Steem, and him to reply to me and be like, hey, Naomi, yeah, I am. I was just like, I was ripping my hair out in joy that someone like that would reply to me. So the communities that I've formed on Steemit, I would say, like, it's just been a way to engage with people that I've never experienced before. Like Twitter, you go on Twitter, and mainly it's a lot of trolling and hate, and then I've managed to cultivate like this small but awesome community that I adore, and you guys know who you are because most of you are in the chat right now. But for the most part, you know, Twitter can be such a cesspool of negativity, and I think that there are different incentive structures working at Steemit that just mean that that doesn't really happen, you know. And it's just nice to be able to put content out and have people engaging with you in this positive way. And when I was going to mention the Steemit open mic. So like while Hard Fork
so
is
good, I love open mic.
Yeah, one of the projects I saw, like seeing the Hard Fork people, like you're putting out all this iterative process where they put out something, they raise money, they make something else, they put out something, they raise money from it, they make something else. That iterative process and seeing all the fan art coming on and them like integrating things, loved that. And then open mic, when I discovered that, just took my love to a whole new level, because I'm someone like I did a degree in classical music and then just never did anything with that degree because, you know, paying bills, am I right? And so I became a film producer. Well, now I make free internet videos. I'm not sure I managed that monetization
killing it.
But at the same time, you know, I love having music as part of my life, and it's hard for me, like, am I really going to take a giant hard case guitar to a bar and wait for 7 hours so I can play in an open mic, and then by that stage everyone's gone home and I'm tired, and maybe I'm chatting with people loudly and my voice is gone. Like the open mic scene when you're actually playing out and about is really tough, and I love performing, you know, it's what I was all about, like what I still am all about if I had the chance to do it. And when I discovered the Steemit open mic, I just fell madly in love, and some of the stuff I put up there is just absolutely atrocious, and I'm so sorry. Like I love writing geeky covers, as you all know, and people will send me covers and be like, hey Naomi, play this song, and I think I won a prize in Steemit open mic one week from someone from Polly who actually wrote the song, wrote Hey Nay instead of Hey Jude, and changed the words to the Beatles song, which is like a sacrilege, but I sang it. And I just have so much fun with that. So Menno, I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, because I go through and I watch those videos on open mic, and there are just some of the most breathtakingly stunning performances on there. And I love the engagement, and I love that you've built this community of people who want to be involved with this. Like I love the game aspect, you know, anyone who watches my channel knows that I love creating dumb things. Like I created an entire Telegram channel just for drinking tea, and the only thing we were allowed to do in there was like make sipping sounds and post gifs of teacups. Like I just love that, like really dumb things. So to see an entire ecosystem built around music on Steemit, like that's the stuff that I love. So I just wanted to give you a hat tip there, and thank you for all the stuff you're doing. And for everyone who's like not watching the open mic, you guys need to be on there and upvoting the stuff on there, because there are some phenomenal musicians like all around the world, you know, and there are people who are putting in songs who are from places where that 1 cent that your upvote contributed makes a difference to them. So be checking out this stuff, because they're pouring their hearts and souls into all of this, and I just love it. So on that note, I just wanted to kind of give like a little bit of a shout out to the awesome little sub communities going on in Steemit that I see evolve. And if there are any others, like any fun things, like I'm always open for an adventure and fun and all that. If there are some things that I need to check out and get involved with, then just let me know. I'm very easy to get hold of.
Well, yeah, there's also a comedy open mic one now, and you can see it. Yeah,
I'll watch it if there is one. Send a link to that, because I'll enjoy. Hopefully, it's not as gut wrenching as some of the actual comedy open mics.
Can't promise for that.
I used to go to a lot of comedy open mics, and oh my gosh, there are only so many like poo jokes that you could handle in a single night that you're just like, oh god, like your heart kind of breaks.
Well, that open mic community really highlights how adding a feature like communities can make a really big difference on the platform, because right now they don't really have those tools. It also highlights a really important point that I always like to bring up, is that you have to reverse how you think about everything when you start dealing with Steem, and everything is not what you expect. For example, you talked about making bad content. There's no cost to making bad content on Steem. The only cost is you might not make money on it.
Exactly. I put out things. So I did a one take wonder the other day when I was in Australia. I went to my friend Suze's studio because I was, long story, but I was down south of Australia making a film, and then I had an afternoon off. So then I wrote a song, and then so I found a friend who had a studio. I went to a studio making music. When I was there, I taught myself how to play New Year's Day, the Taylor Swift song. And so it was just me like kind of bumming around on the computer, on the piano, and I finally did a take where I did it all in one go, where I didn't screw it up too badly. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to post this. Yeah, I'm just going to post it on there because like something about the open mic just makes me want to share this stuff, even if it's like not perfect. You know, I know that my tempo, like I step out a little bit. It's just about like sharing the stuff that you love and saying, hey, I made a thing, and people respond and they say that's a great thing. And you know, it's just so encouraging and beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. I'm glad you feel that way. I mean, I like to say that Steem isn't about becoming famous. It's about becoming friends. And
yeah, that's great.
And people just, they want to see who you really are. They want to see these authentic moments. That's what social media should be about. And that's what we've managed to do to a certain degree. Like you said, obviously there's so much stuff we could be doing better, but we're still incredibly proud of all the stuff that we have done, and that people are having these experiences, and that things like that like the open mic are happening. I mean, it's such a beautiful community on the platform. There's so many amazing creators leveraging that now, and you know, it's such a great part of this Steem ecosystem. It's really what it's all about. We say this all the time. It's really about community. What we're really trying to do is just build a blockchain that fosters community growth and gives communities everything that they need. And it just looks so different because people aren't used to dealing with products that aren't all about maximizing eyeballs so that they can sell you stuff. So it requires a mind shift when you have this cryptocurrency element where it's really about having a stake in the technology that you use. And that stake element of having skin in the game, it changes everything. Yes, there are trolls, but like you said, there's also incredible engagement because everybody has a stake in the platform. Everybody has skin in the game.
Absolutely. And on that note, I mean, we've been going for a long time. I didn't intend for this to be such a long stream.
That happens with Steem.
It's a lot to talk about. But I really appreciate your time, Andrew. And I appreciate getting to know you, like, again, someone that I met via Steem and sort of became part of my community and my like creative network as well, just from Steem. So I really appreciate that. A huge thank you to Menno and Full-Time Geek for their tips on Steem and for the super chat as well. And thank you to everyone who's been here in the chat on this Sunday evening or wherever you are in the world. But I just really appreciate you guys being here. I'll post my link to my Steem as well, my account, so that you guys can check out my page if you haven't already. I post all of my content there. So any video that you see elsewhere, you're going to find that on Steem. Sometimes I post extra things on Steem. It depends what I've got going on, but definitely on there all the time. So check it out. Here's my Bitbacker link if you ever want to watch a video live. Everything is streamed through Bitbacker Live. It's a great platform where you can make money in all different types of crypto, and Google doesn't take 30% of it, or Patreon doesn't take 10% of it if you want to do like regular subscribing to different content creators. So check that out. And on that note, go and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening, or if it's a Monday morning, have a wonderful rest of your week. I appreciate you guys all being here.
And thank you, Naomi.
And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for being a part of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'll chat to you all on Steem. If you have a profile that you wanted to send me, just send a link as a comment in the video and I'll follow you guys there. Bye.